At number 10, Hugh Grant. You don't really hear too much about Hugh Grant these days, so when I found out that he was banned from somewhere, I was actually pretty shocked. He was banned from The Daily Show after having a really bad interview that affected the show's host. Jon Stewart, the former host of The Daily Show, said in an interview that Hugh Grant was the absolute worst guest he'd ever had on the show. He spoke about how when Hugh was on to promote his film Did You Hear About the Morgans, Hugh was making a huge scene backstage and was really mean and annoying to the people who were working on set. Apparently, Hugh was allegedly going around saying that he had better places to be. He also got really upset about the clip that they played from the film, saying, quote, "What is that clip? It is a terrible clip." To which Jon replied, telling Hugh to make a better movie. You could really tell that Jon was fed up with Hugh and his attitude on the show. Jon went on to say that because of his poor experience with Hugh, he would never have him back on his show. At number 9, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin is known for being pretty outspoken and controversial at times, and it's because of her antics that she's been banned from just about every talk show. Because of her unpredictable actions, use of crude language, and her problematic past, she isn't welcome on shows like The View, The Today Show, Ellen, Regis and Kelly, Jay Leno, Letterman, and many others. She's racked up a lot of these bans over the years, but some new ones, like being fired from CNN, come from the backlash that she gained after the Donald Trump incident where she posed with a fake bloodied model of Donald Trump's head. She's been known to ruffle people's feathers on live TV and pull stunts that are inappropriate for broadcast. For example, during her time hosting the New Year's Eve special with Anderson Cooper on CNN, she used profanity and even removed some of her clothing on TV. On top of that, she's offended people during award shows while making speeches and making inappropriate comments. Though she's been banned from certain TV shows, I really think that people just want her banned from the media in general because of her actions. Now, before I carry on talking about more celebrities banned from late night programs, I would first like to take a moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because it really helps the channel out and we appreciate you guys supporting our platform. At number 8, Harmony Korine. I think it's common knowledge, at least to most people, that when you're a guest somewhere, you should try and be on your best behavior. Most people follow this unspoken rule, but many others don't, especially celebrities, as we will see throughout this list. One person who really should have tried to behave themselves is director Harmony Korine, who's best known for the movie Spring Breakers. There was once a time when Harmony made a number of appearances on The Late Show with David Letterman in the mid to late 90s. This was also during a time when Harmony was reportedly on a lot of drugs. Though he was a frequent guest on the show, his appearances just stopped all of a sudden and no one really knew why until 2013 when Letterman revealed the truth as to why the director was banned from coming on the show. Apparently, Letterman caught the director going through Meryl Streep's purse one time, and that was just the last straw for the late night host. When talking about this fateful event, Letterman said, quote, "I went upstairs to greet Meryl Streep and welcome her to the show. I knocked on the door and she wasn't there. I looked around and found Harmony going through her purse. True story. And so I said, that's it, put her things back in her bag and then get out." End quote. After that, Harmony was no longer welcome on the show and has not been back since. At number 7, Bobcat Goldthwait. I think that this goes without saying, but don't go setting fire to random things. I know Adele said set fire to the rain, but that was just a metaphor. Clearly though, one guest on Jay Leno didn't quite get the memo because they ended up setting a fire during their interview on The Late Night Show. Back in 1994, actor Bobcat Goldthwait was a guest on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and during his guest appearance, the actor decided to randomly set fire to his chair. At the time, Jay thought that this was just a spontaneous bit, but in reality, Bobcat came prepared for this as he brought lighter fluid and a lighter that was hidden up his sleeve. Luckily, the other guest who was there that night, Lauren Hutton, was quick on her feet and doused the flames with a cup of water. Jay, understandably, was very unhappy with all this and banned Bobcat from the show. Not only that, but the actor was also charged with arson for his stunt and was ordered to pay over $3,300 in fines, some of which went towards replacing the chair that he set fire to. Not too sure why he decided to make this interview go up in flames like that, but at least he won't be able to pull that stunt again. At least not with Jay. At number 6, Dax Shepard. Actor and comedian Dax Shepard has been very open about his struggles with substance abuse for some time now. He's opened up about some of the lowest points in his career that was caused by his substance abuse, including one time that got him banned from a late night show. Dax told a story about how he was once preparing to be on Late Night with Conan O'Brien in 2004, but when he was doing the pre-interview, he blacked out. Dax didn't remember any of the pre-interview where he was supposed to go over the talking points for the evening, and by the time his real interview started, he was so lost. He went into detail saying, quote, "I show up on the show and I don't know what he's talking about. I can tell he's queuing me up for stories I've told, but I don't know any of the stories." End quote. Because of how badly he messed up his interview, he was banned from the show for a few years until he got sober. Years later, he was welcomed back on the show and all was forgiven, but it was still a low point for the actor. At number 5, Jay Leno. This next ban was caused by one serious feud between Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien. Because both men were were talented late night hosts, there were a lot of pitches from different networks trying to poach one or the other to take over talk shows and whatnot. Well, things got kind of heated when Conan was promised the hosting gig for The Tonight Show when Jay's contract was up. As you would imagine, Jay didn't take the news very well, and so he decided to start his own show, The Jay Leno Show, which aired before Conan's. Well, when neither of their shows were bringing in good ratings, the network reshuffled the time slots, gave Conan's slot to Jay, and bumped Conan's show back half an hour. Conan didn't like that, took a payout, and The Tonight Show fell back into Jay's hands. Later on, when asked if he would have Jay on an episode of his show, Conan shut that down, essentially saying that Jay would have been banned from his program. There was just a lot of bitterness between them, and the water under that bridge has certainly dried up. At number 4, Gary Busey. A lot of people enjoy their personal space. I know that there are many people who love getting close to others and who are very physical people, but you know, not everybody likes that. Getting upset when someone invades your personal space without permission is pretty understandable, and this notion is what got Gary Busey banned from the Howard Stern Show. Back in 2001, actor Gary Busey was on the Howard Stern Show and seemed to have ignored the notion of personal space, and that rubbed Howard the wrong way. While on the show, the actor picked up Howard's co-host, Robin Quivers, giving him a big bear hug, and even chased Howard around the studio trying to wrestle him. Howard really didn't like what Gary was doing that day, and so he promptly banned him from coming back on the show. When Gary explained the motives behind his actions, he blamed it on his quote, 13 separate personalities. He continued to say that he was just really excitable that day, but that wasn't a good enough excuse to get him back onto the show until 2017, when he was invited to do an audio-only interview with Howard. At number 3, Howard Stern. But speaking of Howard Stern, he himself has been banned from a late night show. Apparently, he and Jay Leno have had beef ever since Howard's 1995 appearance on The Tonight Show. This appearance was pretty chaotic. Howard entered onto the show with 2 women in bikinis and prompted the women to start kissing each other on air. On top of that, Howard kept speaking over Jay and other guests while on the show as well. Jay was apparently so fed up with Howard and his antics that he nearly walked off set, and was so mad about the way that the show turned out that evening that he later called into Howard's show to say that he had, quote, gone beyond the acceptable standards. After that, Howard was banned, and he and Jay have had beef ever since. At number 2, Donald Trump. Now, to find out that Donald Trump has been banned from any kind of talk show really isn't all that surprising. So many hosts from various shows have banned the former president, but this next ban is a little juicier because it kind of involves some beef between the Donald and late night host Seth Meyers. In 2016, the late night talk show host issued a ban against Donald Trump in retaliation for Trump having revoked Seth's Washington Post credentials. Though it was an official ban, it was also done as a joke since Seth already knew that Donald would never be on a show anyway, but it was about the principle. In a joke statement to Donald, Seth said, quote, "We instituted this ban despite the fact that he's never been here or asked to be here or would never be caught dead here. I just think that it takes an amazing amount of courage on our part. So the ball is in your court, Donald. Either rescind your Washington Post ban or you're not allowed to appear on the show you have no interest in appearing on. Although maybe now that you can't have it, you're changing your mind." End quote. And finally, at number 1, Oprah Winfrey. This last ban seems to have been more so self-imposed. After making an appearance on David Letterman's show in 1989, Oprah Winfrey issued a self-imposed ban, refusing to go back on Letterman's show. After what she experienced on the show, Oprah and Letterman seem to have had some kind of feud going on, though it was more low-key than others. As for what happened to cause this self-imposed ban, well, Oprah finally opened up about the event that caused this back in 2013, saying, quote, "It was a terrible experience for me. The guy in the audience started yelling, 'Get her, Dave.' You were sort of baiting the audience and there were a bunch of drunk guys down the front. I was trying to mitigate the whole thing. It felt so uncomfortable for me. I didn't want to have that experience again." End quote. Basically, she was just really uncomfortable on the show and wanted to forget about the event, hence her minor beef with the late night host, and she just didn't want a repeat of that unpleasant experience. At number 10, Vivica A. Fox. You know, you don't always have to like everybody. It's okay not to be the biggest fan of someone, but for the sake of appearances, it might be a good idea to at least pretend like this person doesn't bother you. This could be extra good advice for celebrities as well. Because Hollywood is essentially one big show, having beefs with people isn't always the best thing for you, and watching 2 people who hate each other try to have a conversation can be painful as well. Take for example the bad blood between Vivica A. Fox and Jimmy Kimmel. To start, these 2 celebrities weren't the biggest fans of each other to begin with, but when the actress was on Jimmy Kimmel Live back in 2005, their bad blood started to really boil, and it led to the actress being banned from the show. The actress was on the show to promote her movie Missing, but things didn't go as smoothly as planned because as Jimmy made a joke about one of Vivica's friends, it made her upset and she ended up storming off the set, leaving Jimmy to finish the segment without his guest. Later on, he said that Vivica was one guest that he would never have back on the show. At number 9, Bill Hicks. Many times in Hollywood, we see people get in trouble for being too controversial. It's basically the backbone of cancel culture. Well, here's an example of someone being banned from a talk show for being so controversial that their segment was scrapped entirely. Comedian Bill Hicks made a number of appearances on Letterman between 1984 and 1993, but his 12th appearance on the show was scrapped after it was deemed too controversial to be aired. After that, a ban was issued. According to the comedian, Letterman as well as the audience didn't seem to have many issues with his set, but it was the show's executives who had the whole thing scrapped. This statement has been debated by some because a lot of people still took offense to some of the topics the comedian was discussing. Unfortunately, the comedian never got a chance to redeem himself on the show as he passed away a short time later. Now, before I carry on telling you guys about celebrities who've been banned from late night shows, I would first like to take a moment to ask you guys to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and maybe consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more of our videos. At number 8, Madonna. It seems as though there's a good chunk of people who really don't like Madonna. There could be 1.5 million reasons why she and others do not always get along, but the bottom line here is that not everyone wants to be friends with the singer, especially Piers Morgan. There seemed to be some kind of one-sided beef with the singer that frankly I don't think she cares about too much, but Piers on the other hand had a lot to say about her. Morgan said that Madonna was banned from his program because she is, quote, boring and annoying. He also went on to say, quote, Madonna and I, we've never really seen eye to eye. There was a bread roll throwing incident in London in the mid-90s. There was an incident at a hotel in the south of France at the Cannes Film Festival involving a photographer and a bodyguard. There's been an incident involving a pub owned by her recently departed husband Guy Ritchie, where my brother was the manager, end quote. If you thought he was done with his commentary on the singer, you thought wrong. Pierce also said that Madonna was too vegan for TV. Whatever that means. Either way, Madonna never responded to all of Pierce's comments about her, so again, I think she remained pretty unfazed by the ban that he put in place, but clearly the TV host had some pent-up aggression there. At number 7, Joan Rivers. Apparently, late-night TV host Johnny Carson and Joan Rivers had so much beef that he not only banned the comedian from his show, but he also refused to speak to her for the rest of his life. When Carson became the host of The Tonight Show in 1962, Joan was starting to rise to fame for her comedy. She and Carson became a pretty dynamic duo as she appeared in his late night show almost 100 times. She was hired as a writer and even became a guest host when Carson was away, but in the mid-80s that's when things started to turn bad as Joan was upset that NBC never offered her a long-term contract. When talks of Carson's retirement began, there was a list of potential candidates of who would replace him, and to her astonishment, Joan wasn't on that list. The silver lining there was that Fox later contacted her about having her own late night show, and she jumped at the opportunity. This made Johnny really mad because he felt like he was almost being blindsided by the whole thing. This caused them to have a pretty big falling out, which led to Joan being banned from her former friend's show. When speaking out about the drama between them, Joan went on to say, quote, I think he really felt because I was a woman that I was his, that I wouldn't leave him. I know this sounds very warped, but I don't understand otherwise what was going on. For years I thought that maybe he liked me better than the others, but I think that it was a question of I found you and you're my property. He didn't like that as a woman I went up against him, end quote. At number 6, Kelsey Grammer. I feel like when a celebrity asks for something specific, it should be given to them. I'm not talking about anything material like demanding a cup of ice chips or something. I mean a specific request in reference to the way that they are treated. For actor Kelsey Grammer, he made a very specific request when doing an interview with Piers Morgan, and when that request wasn't honored, there was a falling out that led to the actor being banned from the show. When the actor made a guest appearance on Piers Morgan Tonight back in 2012, he requested that a picture of his ex-wife not be shown. He was willing to answer questions about her, but just didn't want to have a photo of her be aired. Well, Piers didn't honor that request, and when a photo of his ex-wife was shown, Kelsey stormed off set. The actor's publicist said that Piers had to take accountability for his actions because Kelsey was so mad about the situation, but instead, Piers barred the actor from his show. That doesn't really seem like the right thing to do in that kind of situation, but okay. At number 5, Jackie Mason. I'm sure we are all aware of how sensitive TV networks are about what kinds of things get aired. Saying some kind of adult word can cause some serious consequences, but what about hand gestures? Well, it turns out that those are also against the rules, and someone had their whole career ended because of it. Comedian Jackie Mason had been working on The Ed Sullivan Show for a bit back in the day, and it made him pretty successful. He was given a contract for 6 appearances, which was set to earn him around $45,000, which is more like $350,000 $40,000 in today's money, since this all happened back in the mid-60s. Either way, it was a very well-paying job for only having to do 6 appearances. Anyway, his entire contract was essentially ripped up after he got into some trouble for flipping the bird on stage. Jackie was playing off one of the stage managers who was making gestures with his fingers to indicate how much time he had left, but he went a little too far. As part of his little joke, he pointed his finger around the room saying, quote, "Here's a finger for you, and a finger for you, and a finger for you," end quote. This kind of behavior was not allowed, and so he was booted off the show and subsequently banned. At number 4, Artie Lang. When you're a guest on someone's show, the expectation for celebrities is that they stay alert, engaging, and on their best behavior. For comedian Artie Lang, it seems as though he didn't follow through with that unwritten rule and he got banned because of it. Lang had been struggling with substance abuse, and though he had appeared on Conan O'Brien's show a number of times, he ended up getting banned because the producer thought that he was under the influence of some kind of substance on his last appearance, so they told him that he wouldn't be welcome back on the show until he was clean and could prove it. The studio didn't want to risk anything if Artie kept coming back while he was still using, and so they did it for his own good as well as to save their own image as well. At number 3, Howie Mandel. If you watched America's Got Talent, then you know that Howie Mandel and Piers Morgan were judges together. Through the time that they worked together, Howie was known to play pranks on Piers, like using fart machines on him and setting up vending machine blockades. Although Howie thought that this was all in good fun, Piers on the other hand wasn't impressed with his co-workers' antics, and even going so far as to call Howie the quote, "most annoying man that he's ever met." End quote. Piers didn't like Howie so much that he ended up adding him to the list of celebrities who he had banned from his show. There was some bad blood there, but honestly, after learning about how many people Piers Morgan seemed to have beef with, this ban honestly doesn't even surprise me in the slightest. At number 2, Gilbert Gottfried. This ban has to be one of the most pointless bans I have ever heard of because it really wasn't necessary at all. Howard Stern banned Gilbert Gottfried from his show simply because the comedian went on another show. I know, I don't get it either. There wasn't even any bad blood between them. When Gottfried got cancelled after making insensitive tweets about the devastating tsunami that hit Japan in 2011, Howard even came to his defense online, so really no one knows what the motive behind this ban really was. I'm sure it can't really be because he went on another show, because that is so absurd, but honestly, we may never know. And finally, at number 1, Gene Simmons. I think that we can all agree that Gene Simmons is somewhat outlandish. He's a guy with a lot of big energy and no filter, so when it comes to interviewing him live, you never know what he might say, but you can certainly hope that it won't be too offensive. At one point, the singer was a Fox favorite, making regular appearances on their programming where they would discuss hot topics in the world and would share their opinions on things. They liked the guy and they liked having him on their talk show, but after causing a stir during a meeting at Fox and making some crude comments towards some of the other staff members, Gene got banned for life, and it was a hot topic of its own. Some of the things that Gene said to some of the women at the network got leaked, and it's not something that you would want to have said to you, let's just put it that way. After all that went down, the singer was not welcome back on their programming, and honestly, I can't say I blame them.
Beginning the countdown, number 10 is Howie Mandel. Although he's a very successful comedian and a lot of people would defend his humor, there will naturally be people out there who just don't find him funny. He's also known for his rowdy and loud personality, and one person who isn't a fan of it is Piers Morgan. Turns out he didn't care for Howie's cheerful attitude and silly jokes, so he banned him from returning to his talk show. The comedian never really did anything to personally upset him, and there isn't some big drama to the story. He simply just didn't like him on the show. Piers said that Howie was too irritating to have on his show, and even went as far as calling him the most annoying man in the history of planet Earth. That makes it crystal clear, Piers Morgan. Clear as glass. You do not like Howie Mandel. Coming up next, number 9 is Madonna. At first it might be shocking to think that someone would ban the Queen of Pop herself, but there is one talk show she is permanently banned from. She too got banned from Piers Morgan, and he made sure that everyone knew about it. Back in 2011, he made a public statement saying that he would never allow her to return to a guest on his CNN show at the time. He called Madonna, I quote, "an irritant in my life for 20 years. So it sounds like they've had some beef for a while then. He said that she would only be invited onto his show if she made an apology to him on live television. There's been different rumor mills on why he dislikes her so much, but his exact reasons are still kind of unclear. He just said that she is responsible for a series of crimes against him, whatever that means. Rolling into the number 8 spot is Gilbert Gottfried. He's a talented comedian but is known for having a dark sense of humor, mainly insult comedy. He's been titled crude, inappropriate, inappropriate, but also hilarious. I think people's personal opinions on him would just vary depending on their sense of humor, which is fair because we all have our own sense of humor. But radio and television personality Howard Stern wasn't a fan of his comedy when he appeared on his talk show. The two of them got pretty heated with one another, and Howard said that he was being talked down to by Gilbert. He also took a joke too far and spit up cupcakes behind the scenes while the cameras were still rolling, and Howard just was kind of frustrated by it. He didn't really get it and he didn't find it funny. He was actually once a regular on his show, but he has never appeared on it since, and Howard does not have plans to bring him back. Moving on to number 7, we have Howard Stern. Well, isn't that just a funny little coincidence? What comes around goes around, I guess. He issued a few different bans on other celebrities, but was on the receiving end for one of them. It all came from his longtime feud with Jay Leno, which all started after Howard accused him of stealing bits from his own show. Not to mention the chaos in 1995 when Howard appeared on his show and brought 2 nearly naked women on stage and started sucking on their toes when Leno interviewed the next guests. He was so mad with this weird and erratic behavior that he actually ended the show early by walking off the stage. And at number 6 is the Kardashians. I am not going to name the girls off one by one because they all got banned from a show as a family, like a group coupon kind of deal. Like a Groupon. Back in 2012, during an episode of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, the CNN news anchor Anderson Cooper was asked if there was anyone he would refuse to have on his show at the time. He responded with, "I'd say generally any member of the Kardashian family." There wasn't much of an explanation why, and people were actually confused because just a few hours before that interview, Khloe tweeted about how much she loves the newsman and even referred to him as a silver fox. Which is just awkward, because clearly y'all are not on the same page with one another. Halfway through at number 5 is Kathy Griffin, another comedian whose content focuses a lot on dark comedy and controversial subjects like religion, politics, and LGBTQ rights. So there is bound to be a few people that she offends or frustrates. Throughout her career, she's been banned from more talk shows than anyone else on this list, and they include The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, The View, Ellen, and The Late Show with David Letterman. The reasons vary from making derogatory comments all the way to taking her clothes off. True story, video proof is still on YouTube. While she was on the David Letterman's talk show, she decided to take off her clothes on live television during their interview. She literally undid her dress, pulled it down, exposed her entire bra and her stomach, and the fact that she was not wearing underwear. True story, and then she had him zip it back up, and it's very uncomfortable to watch, but I think you should. Sliding into number 4 is Hugh Grant. How could anyone possibly ban the charming actor? I mean, am I right? Well, it is possible, and Jon Stewart banned him from The Daily Show with Jon Stewart back in 2009. He said his decision is justified though, and claimed that Hugh was extremely rude when he appeared on the show. He said he was cursing, complaining about everything, and people around him complained that he was annoying pretty much everyone on set. But down the road, the actor admitted that he was in a bad mood that day, and he tweeted out, "Turns out my inner crab got the better of me with TV producer in 2009. Unforgivable. Jay Stewart, correct, give me kicking." At least he admits it, right? I mean, we have all had bad days. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was cranky sometimes. Alright guys, we've made it to number 3 and we have Joan Rivers. The comedian legend was once a permanent guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, but she ended up landing a gig to have her very own late night show on Fox, and their friendship soon came to an end because of it. She made history for being the first woman to ever host a late night broadcast talk show, but it turned out to be a flop, and Carson felt betrayed by her because she left, so he banned her from returning to his, which I get. The ban even continued when Jay Leno took over in 1992 because Jay Leno was just trying to respect Carson's wishes. But in 2014, the ban was finally lifted by Jimmy Fallon when he did his premiere episode as the host of The Tonight Show. Taking over the number 2 spot is Adrian Brody. The actor completely shocked the audience with a joke that has gone down in history for being so inappropriate and offensive. Back in 2012, he was hosting SNL and he went onto the stage to introduce the rapper Sean Paul, but he wore a wig of fake dreadlocks and attempted this horrible Jamaican accent. The joke gone wrong was enough for him to get banned from ever returning to the show. Not to mention, the producer Lorne Michaels is said to hate when celebrities go unscripted on his show and do things that haven't first been approved or at least discussed, because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have approved that joke. Winning the #1 spot is Sinead O'Connor. The singer-songwriter first rose to fame in the 80s and has always been controversial and open about her political views and beliefs. But she's another person who got banned from SNL for pulling a stunt that went too far and did not have people laughing like the show's intentions are. While she was singing a cover of Bob Marley's War, she took out a picture of Pope John Paul II and started reciting the word evil. And then she went on to rip it in half and say, "Fight the real enemy." The entire studio was shocked and left in complete silence, probably feeling super uncomfortable, not really knowing how to react to something like that. I'm confused. I don't understand. Starting us off at number 10 is Steven Seagal. If you thought he was the type of guy who wouldn't share his negative opinions about a topic, then you thought wrong. He likes to express these emotions through humor, but one time his jokes did not win him laughs. They actually got him banned from Saturday Night Live. Back in 1991, he hosted the show and received some pretty harsh ratings for his appearance. His jokes rubbed people the wrong way, but apparently there was also reports that he was just difficult to work with. Some crew members said they disliked working with him and that he was the worst host to ever appear on the show. So the actor and martial arts guru got banned from the show altogether. Moving on to number 9, we got Vince Vaughn. Many people would say that he's a great actor, but rumor has it there are less charming things about him when he is not on our screens. Everyone is allowed their own opinion, and apparently the actor made it clear that he doesn't really approve of gay marriage and same-gender relationships in general. And he revealed some of these comments while doing an interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show. As you know, Ellen is happily married to another woman and is a huge influence in the LGBTQ community. Now, there's been no confirmation from the source herself, but reports were made saying that after the interview, he was banned from returning to her show for a few years. Climbing into our number 8 spot is Gary Busey. He's a man full of talent, but his erratic behavior does not always sit well with others ever since his tragic motorcycle accident that ended with severe brain damage back in 1988. Throughout different interviews, he's shown fans that he has multiple personalities, which some people might get a kick out of, but Howard Stern is not one of those people. Gary got banned from the Howard Stern show after one of his interviews where he displayed this wild and bizarre behavior. He picked up Howard's co-host in this weird bear hug stunt, and he also wrestled Howard himself to the floor. In the middle of the interview. Just put him on the floor. Howard has said he felt some guilt banning him from returning to his show, but admits that he just simply cannot handle it. And at number 7 is Chris Brown. The singer flew into a rage on the set of Good Morning America, so it's not all that surprising that they wouldn't want him back on their show. It was back in 2011 when the singer didn't like the question they asked him, so he decided to walk out during the middle of the on-air interview. But he didn't just walk out gracefully, he left the interview, went backstage, ripped off his shirt like the Hulk, and smashed a studio window. Tell me it's not a coincidence that all of this anger came from a question about his felony assault case against his ex-girlfriend Rihanna. I mean, dude, you're really not helping your case here by trying to show the world that you can control your anger. No offense. Cruising into number 6 is Heather Mills. This one runs a lot deeper than just having bad behavior or a bad first impression. She was banned from the Piers Morgan show because she cheated on her husband. You're probably wondering why he would care about her love life so much. Well, her husband is actually his best friend. So you can imagine that would put him in an uncomfortable situation with having her on the show for interviews. So reports say after she cheated on his best friend, he banned her from being a guest on his show. Apparently, he's made some comments about the situation and said that she's just another, I quote, gold digger chasing wealthy gentlemen. Halfway through at number 5 is Kelsey Grammer. It appears as though Piers Morgan might throw bans around like it's no big deal, or maybe he's just a really hard guy to please. He slapped a lifetime ban on the Frasier actor after he appeared on Piers Morgan Live. What happened was, during his appearance, the network showed a photograph of his ex-wife, Camille Grammer, after they promised that the subject of his relationship would not be discussed on air. He responded to the photos by walking off set before he even made his full appearance. So they gave him a lifetime ban. Some people said it was a dramatic reaction, while others say the ban was a little over dramatic. So, what do you guys think? Which was the dramatic part? The reaction to the photos or the lifetime ban? Moving along to number 4, we have Piers Morgan. Yes, the roles have reversed. He throws around these bans on other celebrities, but he himself got one from Rosie O'Donnell. Now, the two of them don't actually have any beef with each other. Rosie banned him from the talk show, The Rosie Show, out of loyalty to one of her friendships. Turns out she's a good friend to Madonna, who got banned from Piers Morgan Live. I shared that story in our part 1 video. And since they are good friends, Rosie lashed back at Piers after finding out that Madonna got banned from his show and said that she was gonna ban him from hers. Rolling into our third spot is Chevy Chase. He was once a big star from the original Saturday Night Live cast back in 1975. Actually, he was one of the first. But he is also the first cast member to ever get banned from the show. The good news is his ban came long after he had left the show on his own terms. He left the show after 2 successful years and then returned 8 different times to host Saturday Night Live. During his 8th time hosting though, he got officially banned from ever returning after he hit another cast member in the back of the head. I'm not laughing that he punched someone, I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. Will Ferrell reported him after he apparently witnessed the physical assault. But over the years, he has gotten on better terms with the creator Lorne Michaels, and although he was banned from hosting, they did allow him back on the show for smaller appearances. Taking over our number 2 spot is Martin Lawrence. It seems like NBC has no problem banning celebrity talent from Saturday Night Live if they are not pleased with their experience. Even the hilarious actor-comedian was banned from the network after he used inappropriate language that they said could risk the show's ratings. In his open monologue back in 1994, he made a reference to the female genitalia and also said some curse words, both things that were obviously not in the original script. He was banned from the show, and fortunately for the network, the inappropriate monologue was edited in a way so that they could take some of that out, so it didn't damage the ratings all that much, but some of it was still left in. Earning the number 1 spot on our list is Bobcat Goldthwait. This one takes the cake. It's honestly pretty crazy, and I'm surprised I didn't know about it before researching for my list. Back in 1994, the comedian went on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and during the interview, he got infuriated when he heard that the Arsenio Hall show was being cancelled. But he took his anger to a whole different level, and during the middle of the interview, he stood up, took out some lighter fluid, soaked his interview chair, and set the chair on fire. Maybe just the slightest bit dramatic, but to no surprise, he was banned appearing on the show ever again. He actually got fined, and he was forced to make a public service announcement in regards to fire safety.